Hey guys, how you doing? And welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do something very different from what I usually do, and I've been saying for years that I've been wanting to do more of these videos, and as you can see from my background, I am quite the gamer, at least in some form or fashion, and I am definitely a big Nintendo guy. I've done some reactions on this channel before to certain Smash Bros. Announcements, and I've definitely wanted to kind of take this opportunity and explore some new ideas that I could throw around on the channel, make videos about. And some of the things I get most excited about when we get into these new game cycles, especially with Nintendo, who's notoriously prone to leaks. I do kind of like talking about what leaks do pop up and the speculation around that. And I kind of wanted to do a leak that I think has a lot of credibility going towards it, because if you guys don't know, I am a huge Pokemon fan, and it probably is my favorite game franchise of all time. If I had to take a guess, it's the one I've certainly invested the most time in, and the one I enjoy playing the most, consistently throughout my life. One of the first, actually it was the first Nintendo game series I got into. So I am very excited for Pokémon Legends ZA, which we finally got a trailer for on Pokemon Day, and I really wanted to see what is going to happen with this game. Like, what are they going to add? Of course, we're going back to the Kalos region, which was last explored in X and Y and hadn't really been explored since. So it was about time we revisited that place, but also, there's so much speculation surrounding, the game mechanics, especially comparing to Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I really do want to get on here and talk about the leaks that have occurred over the past few days. So of course, spoiler warning if you don't want to know about this, but if you don't, you wouldn't have clicked on this video anyway. And it's not like I'm the first to report on this, obviously, but it is something I do want to discuss, and I kind of want to break down what the Pokemon are that have been leaked and the circumstances leading up to this said leak, because I really want to speculate on not only what they could be, but also their competitive viability, because I really am a big fan of competitive training in Pokemon, and so I think a lot of these prospects are very, very interesting to me. And let's just first start off on how this leak came to be. So of course, if you guys remember last year, there's the huge Terra leak, which leaked so much of Game Freak's info and stuff that we had known about in years, in a very, very strange Typhlosion origin, but you can look that up on Reddit. I'm not getting into that shit. But I do think that what basically happened was there was an early build to Pokemon Legends ZA that was tapped into, and there was a lot of information mined in regards to what Mega Evolutions are going to get. And apparently there's a lot of footage circulating around, I don't know where. I mean, if you put it on the internet, you're going to get killed by Nintendo. So I don't think anyone dares to do that at the moment, and I don't blame them, because I do want there to still be some sort of surprise when the games do come out later this year. But I also am always interested in the juicy details of what that is going to be, even if we don't get a visual on it, right? And so apparently, you have sources such as Riddler-Koo, who's probably the most notoriously credible leaker, I think, in the game of these, the realm of these sorts of leaks. You have Pyro Leaks going on Twitter, X, what have you, and kind of talking about a lot of these things and corroborating a lot of evidence, as well as Centro Leaks, which is one of the big ones I follow, that often do get a lot of things right. And a further thing that's propelling a lot of these leaks forward is that there was a predicted Nintendo Direct this week, and now we had the follow-up that it is happening tomorrow morning. So I really do think that this is looking like this is very likely the case with a lot of this info. Of course, keep it, with a little bit of grain of salt, because this is from an early build, so this isn't necessarily saying that all these things that are happening are 100% for sure certain. And so I definitely think, regardless though, this is probably pretty likely, especially a lot of these choices that are, you know, supposedly given megas this time around, which the number is apparently 27. And of course, if this is from an early build, there could be more than that we don't know about. Even though I think 27 is more than generous. Apparently there's going to be no regional forms, which makes sense because this is set 10 years after X and Y, which is basically almost like a real timeline there. So there's no reason that the, you know, structure of that world and in the environment would necessitate Pokemon having to evolve. And I think that this game is going to be more focused on Megas anyway, so it does make a lot of sense to me that they wouldn't have any new Pokemon this time around, and that's fine. I know people are upset about that, but what can you really expect? It's a new Pokemon game. We're bringing back the Mega mechanic, which is my personal favorite of all the gimmicks that they've introduced over the past decade, and I definitely think that this is the right move. There's a lot of Pokemon here that I think are going to get very much needed buffs, and some that are going to be absolutely cracked out of their minds. But we'll get into that in just a second. And so the list as follows: Clefable, Victory Bell, Starmie, Dragonite, Meganium and Feraligatr, of course, Skarmory, Frostlass, Emboar, of course, Excadrill, Scolipede, Scrafty, Chandelure, the 3 Kalos starters, Chestnut, Delphox, Greninja, Pyroar, Eternal Floette, Barbaracle, Dragalge, Haluncha, Zygarde, of course, Drampa, and Phalanx. Now this is quite an interesting list. Of course, we already kind of knew about Zygarde and Zeraora, even though that sounds busted as hell. Well, of course, Zygarde being the, you know, box art legendary for this game, it only makes sense that that would be the one to get a Mega Evolution. And I don't know how they're going to go about that. They already have the Zygarde complete form, so, you know, that's already seemed like as far as it was going to go, but they're just going to keep giving this mon more to do. Could it have a Mega Evolution for each form? I don't think so. I just don't know how they're going to go about this, but I'm very interested to see. And of course, it was safe to assume that the starters that they're introducing, or that they're reintroducing in this game, were going to get Megas added onto them, and I'm very, very happy that Mega Meganium is happening, because Meganium, I think, most people can agree on is like the worst starter of all time. Viability-wise, it's just not very good. It doesn't really have enough stats to warrant it being a standout Pokemon in any single regard. And so I think it is very exciting, the prospect of this, because if you remember from the trailer, Chikorita learned Disarming Voice, a fairy-type move which it doesn't usually learn, so I think it is safe to assume that Mega Meganium is going to be Grass Fairy-type, which is a very, very good typing competitively, and I think is going to really, really help it out in the long run. I really want to pick this starter, but I'm kind of waiting until I see what these starters are, probably when the game, you know, leaks closer to its release date. And so that way we can kind of see the designs and what the typings may be. But that one I'm very, very excited about. Of course, Feraligatr, awesome. I love Feraligatr. Maybe one of my favorites from Gen 2 out of the starters. Probably more so than Meganium. And a Pokemon that is much better, but still, you know, needs a good buff. And I think that this Pokemon is going to be sick. Maybe water fighting. I don't know. Maybe not, because, of course, Emboar is firefighting. And that's another Pokemon that really needed a big boost. It kind of got some big buffs with Head Smash and Reckless in the last gen in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I think that this is going to be a very, very strong Pokemon. There's no denying. It's probably going to have an attack stat of like 165 or something. I don't know. It's going to be nuts. I think it's going to... I don't know if it's going to be absolutely busted. I think they're going to balance it out in some way. But I think this is going to be very, very dominant in the metagame in the years to come. Because it's like, you have to assume that if they're doing Megas for these Pokemon, they're going to implement it in the next game. Because you wouldn't just put it in this one and not put it in one of like the actual like more competitive mainline games, right? So I think that one's going to be very good. And then of course the 3 Kalos starters getting my evolutions. This is not surprising. They did this for the Kanto ones when X and Y came out, because of course you had these starters being the ones you get at the beginning of the game, but they brought the Kanto ones in and gave Charizard 2 Megas for some reason, because I love Charizard. But yeah, I think these Pokemon are going to be awesome. I think Greninja's going to be especially broken, because Greninja's already so great to begin with. I don't know if Protein is going to be the ability they choose for the Mega, but I am very, very curious to see what they choose to do and how higher the stat distribution is going to be, because obviously it will. And I think that some of the older ones, now this is where we get in some really interesting territory. Clefable, already one of the best Mons in competitive Pokemon to begin with. So I think this thing is going to be Ubers. I really think, I'm like, how can you make Clefable even more busted? Of course, I mean, it could be like one of those things where, you know, people preferred using Garchomp over Mega Garchomp, but I don't know, like, could they add an interesting typing on it, like Fairy Steel? I mean, that would be pretty sick. You know, who's to say? I'm not going to speculate much on that, but I think it's going to be great. Victory Bell, another very mediocre Pokemon that really needs a big buff. I'm really excited to see what they do, especially design-wise. There's so many possibilities with, you know, all the vines and being a plant and all. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. Starmie, another Pokemon, which I'd say is pretty viable overall, but really could definitely use a big boost when it comes to buffs. And I really think that there's so much you can do with this design. Of course, it's probably going to be Water Psychic. They're not going to change that. But, you know, apparently, based on Ku's riddles, like, maybe it's supposed to be like a fidget spinner. I mean, not that it's going to be, but that was a clue that he used, and a lot of people are thinking that that is kind of in reference to Mega Starmie. But the one that is, to me, the most mind-blowing on here is Mega Dragonite, because this Pokemon is already one of the absolute best in the entire metagame. And this is going to be absolutely cracked. Like, there is no way that this Mon doesn't go to Ubers. I mean, this Pokemon is going to be absolutely insane. And it was about time, too, because a lot of the, you know, pseudo-legendaries already had Megas up through, you know, Gen 3 and, wait, did Gen 4? Yeah, and Gen 4. So, it really is kind of strange that this one hadn't gotten it at this point. And I think more than overdue, but is it really necessary? I mean, because Dragonite's already so good. Like, this Mon is going to be absolutely bonkers good. So, definitely that is the one, I think, out of all of these that I think is going to be probably the most viable. If I had to guess, just, you know, going out on a limb here, I think this is going to be the most broken out of all these Mons. But there could be some gimmick or ability with some of these others that kind of puts it above. You never know for certain, but I definitely think it's going to be one of the most broken top 3 Megas out of this list. And then Skarmory. I mean, Skarmory's another one, already a very, very solid Mon competitively. Definitely a great defensive Mon more than anything. And so I definitely think that this is going to be interesting how they approach it. Is it going to be even more defensive? Is it going to be more offensive? More than anything, I'm just excited to see the design at this point. I think this is going to be one of the best ones as well. It would be a fair guess to make. And if it gets more defense, I mean, this is going to be quite the wall that you have to take down. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to see how that pans out. And then, of course, Frostlass. This makes a lot of sense, of course, because Mega Glalie happened and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It only makes sense to, you know, complete the other half of the evolutionary line. And I think that this one is a Pokemon that could use a lot of improvements as well. Already an amazing design in addition to the game to begin with. So I am really curious what they see and decide to do with this Ice Ghost type. I don't think that's changing at all. Very integral to what this Pokemon is. Very excited to see that. Mega Excadrill, another one. This Mon is already really, really great. So I think this is going to be absolutely busted. This is one I'm probably putting on my team when the game comes out, because I really, really do want to see just how good this is going to be. Is it going to keep Mold Breaker, or is it going to get something else? Probably going to get something else that is just going to absolutely crack it to high heaven. But yeah, I'm so excited to see what they do. And obviously, a lot of Gen 5 Mons getting some love, which I am, you know, certainly more than happy about. Like Scolipede. Scolipede is another Pokemon that needed a boost, and I definitely think that this is going to, you know, bode very well for it. believe it had speed boost before. I can edit this part out if that's the case, but I really am curious if they will give it speed boost or if they'll give it something else for the Mega, because of course Blaziken got speed boost and that, you know, tracked for the Mega as well, and that became one of the most broken in the entire metagame. So I don't know if this one's going to be like the best out of all the mons listed here, but I am very excited to see it nonetheless. Scrafty, very, very good. I'm very happy that they're giving Scrafty some love. I've always thought this Pokemon was kind of cool, but never one that really stood out as much as it could have in a competitive sense. Fighting Dark type, you could get some really, really interesting stuff out of that type combination, and I think that this Pokemon, maybe they'll play with the pants gimmick of it pulling up its pants, I don't know, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see how that one turns out. Chandelure, though, oh baby, this one I'm so excited about, because this one I think is kind of decent. And it has one of the coolest designs out of any Pokemon ever, but I just don't think it's ever fully gotten the love it deserves, you know, stat distribution-wise, move pool distribution-wise. I think that this really could put it over the top, and I do expect this one to be very, very competitively viable, considering that Chandelure isn't too bad already. So I think this is going to be a very, very well-deserved buff and a long time coming. I'm definitely transferring my shiny Chandelure that I got in Scarlet and Violet over to this game, and I'm going to Mega Evolve it when I get the opportunity to do so. And so then we move on to some more Gen 6 Pokemon, which of course, I mean, it's Kalos. They had to do more Gen 6 mons than any other. And I think this is really interesting. Pyroar makes a lot of sense. I think that's going to be really cool. A very, very mediocre mon to begin with. And since you have the male and female variants, are there going to be male and female variants of the Megas? Let me know what you think down in the comments below on that. But I think that would be very interesting. And I really don't know what they would do with this mon. I'm not going to really speculate too much. Is it primary normal type? Because I don't know if this is one where they could swap the typing to fire in something else as opposed to being just normal fire. But I am very, very interested to see this. I think it's very well deserved, and of course it makes a lot of sense. Eternal Floette, though, this is interesting because, of course, this Pokemon AZ, you know, of course, one of the main characters in X and Y, and he kind of traveled around with this ancient Floette that never evolves, right? So this is the first time in Pokemon history that we've gotten a Mega Evolution for a Pokemon that's not fully evolved technically, because of course Florges is the next stage, but this is such a unique and interesting case that this Pokemon was already in the coding of X and Y when it originally came out, but was never made available. So I do wonder, I mean, I think it will be available, maybe he gives it to you at the end of the game, but I think this is going to be interesting because we've never seen anything like this for a Pokemon that's not fully evolved to get a Mega Evolution. Of course, a special case, but I'm really interested to see. But my guess is we won't get this until post-game. We get Eternal Floette as a gift, and then the rest goes from there. Now, Barbarnacle, I think is how you pronounce it. This Pokemon, not everybody's favorite. Like, I don't know if everybody was clamoring for a Mega Barbarnacle, but I do think that this is a really good idea. Yet again, another Pokemon that doesn't really have much legs to speak of, competitive-wise, and I think that this is going to be a huge boost for this Water-Rock type, and makes sense, fits right in line with Gen 6. And then Dragalge. My goodness, I love this mon so much. I've been going on for years how underrated this mon was. When I did a draft league back in the day, that was like my most valuable Pokemon on my team. The MVP, if you will. And I really think that this Pokemon already, like, if they should just keep it, its ability, adaptability, because I think that gives it so much legs to work off of, and if you just give this a very, very good stat distribution and increase, this mon is going to be absolutely fantastic. I really am Team Dragalge all the way. I have been for the longest time, and I think you do so much with the design of this Pokemon as well. This is definitely the ones I'm looking forward to the most, and I think this could be one of the best ones. I really do. I don't know if it's going to be the absolute best, like Dragonite or Clefable or Zygarde or something, but I do think that it is going to be in the conversation for one of the most viable on this list. And it is interesting that Clawitzer isn't on here, but that's the thing. We have to take this with a little bit of grain of salt because Clawitzer could be implemented later on in the development. We don't know about it. And of course, Clawitzer is the counterpart, the version exclusive. As to, this was, I forgot which one was, but of course in X and Y, that's how it was. You had to, trade to get the two. And, so I hope Clawitzer makes an appearance, but, it would make sense. But, hey, I'm all for Mega Dragalge all the way. Mega Hawlucha is another one. Love this Pokemon. I think the design of this is always great. And the shiny Pokemon, I'm definitely going to be transferring mine into this game. I think this is a Mon that definitely needed a Mega Evolution, but a Mon that was already competitively viable to begin with. So this Mon is probably going to be pretty cracked, if I had to guess. At least OU, if not higher. But who's to say for certain? I definitely think that is definitely one to look out for, though. I think this Mon is going to, do a lot of interesting things. I'm interested to see if it keeps unburdened or if they give it something else. If they gave this thing adaptability, I mean, that would be absolutely insane. But I'm willing to see where they take it. And of course, now we get to some of the Pokemon that hadn't been around when Mega Evolution was introduced. And we go on to Gen 7, Drampa. It's such a bizarre Pokemon, but it makes so much sense. And Riddler-Coup was kind of hinted at sort of a Hydra-like Pokemon. And I'm wondering, maybe does Drampa get 3 heads? I mean, that would be pretty sick, And of course, this one is primary normal typing before Dragon, so I think it is going to keep the same typing, but just give this thing a lot of good stats and give it an actual good ability that it can utilize. I don't know what that would be. If you have any great ideas, as I said, just let me know. Drop me a line in the comments. I would love to kind of speculate on that, even though I can't think of anything off the top of my head. And of course we get one Gen 8 Mon, which is Phalanx, which is so bizarre. Like, why Phalanx out of the entirety of that generation of Pokemon? But, this Pokemon's ass. I mean, what is there really to say about it? I definitely think that, with that being said, it is deserving of a Mega Evolution, because if you look at the Pokemon from that generation, this is certainly one that needs a boost, I think. And what can they do with, like, the multiple parts of its body? Maybe they can build it into like a buff, sort of bodybuilder or something, sort of like Machamp. That would be kind of sick. I think that this one, design-wise, is the one I'm looking forward to the most, because it's so bizarre and out of left field. I really do think you can do a lot of interesting things. Maybe add another additional type onto it. Maybe Bug. Well, maybe not Bug. I definitely think that there would be some better type combinations there. But, as I said, let me know what you think would be a good idea for that. And yeah, I mean, a couple other things. I mean, because of course those are all the Mons that we have to go over. But I do believe, from what I've heard, there's going to be no extra Charizards. Why would there need to be? And perhaps the biggest disappointment from all this is the fact that we found out there's once again no Mega Flygon, which to me is absolutely absurd. I mean, this is like the one big missed opportunity that they continue to pass over every single time, and I don't know why, because Flygon is such a beloved Pokemon. It has been for almost 20 years, and it is one that definitely needs a good stat redistribution and buff. And so I don't know what is so hard about making a design for this Pokemon. Like, I really don't understand it all. But, that's how it is. That's how the cookie crumbles, as they say. And we can't do anything about it. But I really do think that this is, such a missed opportunity once again. More than any other Pokemon, this is the one I was hoping would get a Mega Evolution, and I know a lot of people are with me on that, but apparently that's not the case. It is what it is. Maybe in the future, I don't know how they're going to be supporting Mega Pokemon from here on out. Hi, so Nathaniel from the future here editing this video. Obviously, we just learned that the Zeraora thing has been deconfirmed. There's no Mega for Zeraora, so I cut as much of that part out of the video as I could. But also we have some info regarding a Mega Malamar, which is pretty sick and a Pokemon that I think really needed a buff, as well as Electros, which is another one that has been kind of neglected since Gen 5 and really needs some love. So, yeah, I guess those are our, final two. I guess we're only getting 26 as of now that we know of. Do you think they'll pop up in the Direct tomorrow? I don't know, but I think it's safe to say that these are two very, very exciting additions that I can't wait to see, especially if Electros gets, like, another extra typing added to it. I think that's one that could really, really benefit from dual typing, but let me know what you think. And also an update I just heard. Apparently, Mega Starmie is in fact water psychic, and it can walk on 2 legs. So yeah, guys, that's the leaks for you so far what we have, and let me know how excited you are for this game. If you're clicking on this video, I'm sure that you're not just some person who's kind of rambling around just for any type of content. You obviously are a junkie for Pokemon in some way, and I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this whole new thing that we have to look forward to by the end of the year. And please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, of course. I do want to do more of these videos if big things like this come out. Maybe I can try to be a little bit more consistent on this stuff, because I really do love talking about this. And I don't feel like I've made a video in quite some time where I just feel so enthused about something, and this is definitely new territory for me, and I love discussing it with y'all. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning into this video, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.